Hello, I'm Pamela Field. Today I would like to share with you indications and instructions and suggestions on how best to utilize a meditation visualization that I already have posted on my YouTube channel. That meditation is called Free the Past, Heal the Future, a meditation for releasing ancestral trauma. I have another video as well on YouTube that is a very detailed and in-depth video explaining my perception and my focus on the theme of releasing ancestral trauma. So I really encourage you, before doing the meditation and listening to this video, to listen to that video as well, because it will give you a very strong foundation upon which you can build and utilize the meditation. I will post the names of both of those videos at the end of this video so that you'll have access to that and know how to access them on YouTube. So I'd like to start with a brief description, an explanation about how inherited ancestral trauma affects all of us. Most of us, at some point in our lifetime, unfortunately, suffer from a trauma. But the fortunate thing is that in these times we have all kinds of therapies, psychologists, psychiatrists, support groups to help us overcome the side effects and the sufferings produced by these traumas. In the not so distant past, perhaps the generation of our ancestors, our grandparents or our great-grandparents, they did not have access to these support groups. So when they suffered a trauma, the only thing that they knew how to do was to swallow it and move on in their lives as best they could. So all of those traumas suffered by our grandparents and great-grandparents and ancestors were, in a sense, repressed, swallowed, and unattended. That's why many of our grandparents are not comfortable talking about their childhood, because these repressed traumas run the risk of being activated if the individuals begin to talk about them to other people. So we really don't have a clear indication or access to information regarding the traumas that we might be carrying from our ancestors. However, they do have a very strong influence and impact on all areas of our lives and our well-being. They can distort our perception about who we are, limit our ability to achieve our goals, and also interfere with our health and our well-being. There's been a lot of research done in the past years on the effects of inherited ancestral traumas, or in other words, transgenerational traumas. There was a wonderful and very in-depth study done by Kenneth O'Brien, PhD, in Australia, who investigated the effects of ancestral trauma on the grandchildren and the children of men who were veterans in the Vietnam War. Now, these veterans, while they were fighting in the war, obviously had to create some kind of a mechanism within their being to have them on a constant state of red alert to any possible danger that might be lurking in their environment. Now, this same mechanism passed on to future generations who are not in life-threatening situations can produce what in today's world is diagnosed or called attention deficit disorder. They're not the same thing, but imagine these children and grandchildren are born with that mechanism and it's not appropriate for them. So they have all this energy, this constant state of red alert, but they don't have anywhere to direct that. Another very interesting study was done by Nathan Kellerman, PhD, who did a lot of research on the descendants of people who were victims of the Holocaust. And he concluded that a trauma may be passed from one generation to the next in the same way as a hereditary disease is passed on. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician. My approach is purely holistic and energetic to the theme of ancestral trauma and how to release it. So anything that I mention in this video or any of my videos is by no means to replace or substitute the advice of a trained physician or doctor, interventions, treatments. This is basically perhaps a support to any kind of allopathic medicine or treatment. I want to make that very clear. So how does the effect of inherited ancestral traumas affect us? In a very, very general way, an individual, for example, could inherit rage or anger that stems down from their ancestors who may have been victim to extreme injustices or sufferings. And this accumulation of 2 or 3 generations of such circumstances can produce a wave of anger or rage that might appear in their grandchild or their great-grandchild. Another situation might be a person who just feels like they have this dark, heavy cloud hanging over their head that just does not allow them to enjoy life. Now, it's possible that one factor contributing to that dark cloud might be the suffering and hardships of various generations from their ancestors. Kind of like a program that just doesn't let them fully release and enjoy their life. Another situation could be, and that could be inherited, is financial difficulties. Imagine that your ancestors may have lived in times of war or post-war or poverty. And during those times, it's quite realistic to imagine that a definition of success might be pure survival. Having a roof over your head, food on the table, clothing. So there might be somewhere in your lineage the program or the motto that says success is equal to survival. That can be handed down, and that's another issue that could interfere with your ability to generate financial prosperity in your lifetime. There are also, for example, genetic illnesses and diseases that get inherited and passed down from generation to generation. There are all sorts of inherited traumas for women. For example, women who lost children in pregnancies or early on in life in former times. For example, sexual abuses or domestic violence, or even limitations from former times regarding women in the workplace that could interfere with a woman's desire to have success in her professional career in these times. Men also have inherited traumas. For example, men who were forced to fight in a war in which they didn't believe, or they were pacifists, and all of a sudden they were put in this situation where they had to kill. Men who, for whatever reason, the circumstances, the times they lived in, were unable to fulfill their goals, achieve their goals. There could be a frustration in the lineage, in the paternal aspects of the lineage. Of course, and very important to consider, are the effects of cultural trauma. As I mentioned earlier, the descendants, the Jewish people, descendants of ancestors who were victims of the Holocaust, native tribes and native indigenous nations, the slaughtering of their ancestors, the removal of them from their native lands, the loss of their ceremonies. Also, people with African roots. For example, from the slave times, the transportation of the slaves, the capturing of them, the whole lifetime living without freedom, and in all cases, the sense of racial and anti-Semitic attitudes in society. All of these things are factors that are mixed into our being on a genetic level, on a cellular level, on the level of the collective unconscious. And all of these factors can affect and limit aspects of our lives. Now, for example, how to use the meditation. Imagine if your great-grandmother was Cherokee, your great-maternal grandmother. You might want to focus the meditation on your maternal lineage to release any trauma suffered by your great-maternal grandmother or earlier ancestors from that lineage related to native traumas suffered by native groups. Another way to use the meditation might be just in general, the desire to connect with your tribe, to connect with your ancestors, to feel their presence and their support in your lives and their protection and their blessings, and just to have that sense of where you come from, the connection with the ancestors and the empowerment that that might bring to you. I've found that many people in today's times have, for the most part, healed their own traumas, the traumas that they suffered in their own lifetimes. And so sometimes they feel like the benefit of advancing, and the problems that they were suffering tend to disappear and vanish, and they enjoy a period of progress and evolution. But then sometimes the problems return. And I use a metaphor of like a rubber band attached to their back that allows them to go so far and then pulls them back to the place that they were at before. Now, I would define that rubber band as the unattended ancestral traumas and limitations caused by them that that person still must work on in order to achieve permanent evolution and progress in their lives. That's why I place such importance on the release and the healing of these ancestral traumas. I'd like to mention also that if you are a person who was adopted and you don't know your biological parents, you could also do the meditation or with the intention to kind of connect, in a sense, with your biological parents, with the ancestors of those lineages, to feel a sense of being rooted, of where you really come from, of your origin. So it's not necessary to have even the names of your biological parents. It's not necessary to even have met your grandparents or know their names or have any access to their individual traumas. None of this information is required in order to attain the benefits of the meditation. Another factor, for example, is any ancestors in your lineage who were immigrants or refugees, who were displaced from their cultures and the lands of their ancestors. You can do the meditation to reconnect with these cultures that you come from and with the lands that these ancestors lived on. So I'm just giving you ideas here of how to use the meditation, how to prepare for it, how to direct your intentions and your purposes to benefit and begin to heal ancestral traumas in your lineage. There are no specific rules, and I encourage you to just use your intuition, be creative, and use the meditation however you feel will be beneficial for you and for your children and your descendants. This goes both ways. The intention is to heal your ancestors, to heal yourself and your life, and for this and your efforts to also release these traumas from your children, your grandchildren, and the generations yet to come. So I'd like to go through just the basic steps now to make it as simple as possible, hopefully, for you. I would suggest that you make a list of any known traumas in any of your lineages. Now, when I talk about lineages, I refer to your maternal lineage, that's your mother, your mother's mother, your paternal lineage, which would be your father, your father's father, etc., but also the lineage of your father's mother and your mother's father. So there's 4 lineages that might need to be attended. So I would make a list, suggest that you make a list of those 4 lineages, and under each column, write down the traumas that you are aware of, or the sufferings, or the difficult times that those ancestors dealt with or were forced with. Once you do that, you might want to reflect upon your own life and see where you're stuck. What are the situations and the problems that keep repeating in your life? What categories do they fall into? Is it a theme of not being able to feel happy, not finding the right partner, financial stress or difficulties, rage, feelings of guilt? Just reflect upon those themes in your life that you feel hold you back, that prevent you from accessing happiness and achieving your goals. And then once you have those 2 lists, your own and the traumas from your lineage, see or try and compare and see if maybe some of the issues you're dealing with might coincide with traumas that your ancestors suffered. What we're doing here is to try and pinpoint what you might have inherited from your ancestors so you can direct the meditation towards healing that particular lineage and attending those particular ancestors who perhaps are the root cause or one of the main factors of what you've inherited. So you reflect upon your own situation. Now, for the meditation, I would suggest that you write an intention. And I've created a kind of template that you can use to insert your name and your circumstances. The idea is to make a declaration before you do the meditation that will direct your intent, so that when you do the meditation, this is kind of floating in the air. It's been stated, your intention, and that gives the meditation more power. So I'm going to post this phrase at the end of the video, so you don't have to try and write it down right now, but I'll read it to you right now to give you an idea of what its purpose is and how it works. So this would be something you can declare before doing a meditation towards a specific goal or intention. I, now you would add in your first name and your last name, here and now declare, with the power and the right of free will on planet Earth, that all of the root causes of trauma in my lineage that produce, now here is where you would fill in what your intention is, in my life and in my being, are accessed, healed, and released permanently and completely from all of my ancestors, my lineage, from myself and my children, and all the generations yet to come. I ask this for the highest good of all concerned. So you would make this declaration, and I consider it a declaration because I believe very strongly in the power of the spoken word. So you would start. The first step would be to state this out loud. You might want to, if you so desire, light a candle and perhaps even put photographs, if you have any photographs of your ancestors, around the candle before doing the meditation. Just a suggestion to give it kind of a ceremonial touch. Then you would read your declaration. Now, I encourage you, you don't need to watch the screen. You can do the meditation, for example, in the evening. You can turn off the lights and just turn the meditation on and lie down and follow the instructions. Now, it's a meditation visualization. So I know not everyone is able to visualize. Perhaps your way of capturing things is kinesthetic through energy or through hearing. But don't worry. If you don't see anything, if you don't visualize what I'm asking you to visualize, that is absolutely not a problem. The meditation visualization is an energetic exercise. It's an energetic approach to healing ancestral trauma. So the benefits will be absolutely the same if you do not see, or if you're not able to see or visualize what's being described to you. I'd like to mention that when I recorded the meditation, I directed it for women to address their maternal lineage and for men to address their paternal lineage. After recording, I realized, yes, of course, women should also address their paternal lineage, their father's lineages, or the lineage of their mother's father, and men should also address their mother's lineage and the lineage of their father's mother. So I want to just make a notation here that don't let my approach, or don't let, when I say on the video, men, if you're a man, address your father. Try and not let that disturb you. So I would encourage you to just not let those references throw you off. If you're a woman working on your father's lineage, just stay focused on that and don't be distracted or disturbed by any reference to gender that doesn't pertain to your intention and the lineage that you're working on. This meditation is meant to create a kind of space in which one might be able to access their genetic memories, the memories of their ancestors, and attend to those, transform them, heal them, and release them. I like to believe that the ancestors are waiting for this, that they're waiting to be attended, that somehow they realize that their unattended sufferings and traumas are holding us back. So the combined effort on the part of our desire to be in service to our ancestors and their desire to be attended, I think is a very powerful combination that can produce very interesting results. I think also my focus is so much on the release and the healing of ancestral trauma because I feel that huge sectors of humanity have already shifted into new spaces, that we're already dreaming new realities. But in order for something to be authentically new, the old aspects must be released. And in this case, I refer to the old aspects as, once again, the unattended, pending traumas that have been inherited and passed along from our ancestors. I think in order for humanity to continue evolving and progressing, this factor absolutely must be attended. So your efforts to heal your lineage serve towards this more global and collective dream that we can all, some point in time, move into a new reality, a better world, a more humane world, and a world in which everyone is offering something of themselves, feeling useful and able to enjoy their lives. So I hope that this information is useful to you. I will post right now the titles of both the meditation and the informative video so that you'll have that on the screen in a few seconds. I will also post the text that you can use before the meditation so you can write that down and feel free to modify it, change it, however you like. Also, if English is not your native language, be sure to translate it. It probably would be more powerful for you if you do that in your native tongue. So, many blessings and good wishes to you and to your ancestors and to your children and to your grandchildren and to all the generations yet to come.